views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
We are already having a good time before you joined us on the Bronx Buzz. My longtime friend and colleague, Bob Kappstatter, is with us. And we have a really special guest. He's special,
thanks,
too.
But yeah, thanks, Gary.
For the second half,
excuse me, I got to go.
We're going to talk to a Rolling Stone writer, a Rolling Stone magazine writer who is from the Bronx, and he's doing something about some Bronx people. And so we're going to do that. But right now, hi, Bob Kappstatter.
Hello.
Nice to have you.
Hello. Did you say your name was Gary?
That's
okay.
it. I think it's on the lower third. You
All
can
right.
read it there.
Okay.
Daily News, obviously, for much of your
43
career.
years,
43
man, oh boy.
years.
There you go.
Who's counting? Bronx Times for a period of time.
2 years of the Times,
right?
yeah.
You were recently working for Assembly Member
and now
Louis
State
Sepulveda.
Senator Louis Sepulveda.
That's right. And
now
and now you're here on the Bronx Buzz.
Right now I'm a consultant. I have one or two clients we will not mention right now.
No, it's fine. But you're here
life
because
is pretty much okay.
Because that's what I didn't ask you about that.
Well, I'm telling you, all right.
You're here because you have been what I think is a very good news photographer, even though it's not been your bailiwick, as we
it's not just
call it.
news. It's
people.
Well, it's photography. It's one of my passions, longtime passion.
Have you studied it at all? Have you really learned about the equipment? Or is it one of these things you have an eye for it, you know what you're looking at, and it comes out
Well,
okay?
you know, I did a double major in journalism school, reporting and photography.
And I'm not going to ask how long ago, but that's
Well, but you know, and then I went out on an assignment once for some big political person, and I'm running around with the rest of the paparazzi. And afterwards I said, wait a minute, camera bag, cameras, pad and pen.
So you were saving your back. And,
but always loved photography. Anyway,
now, when we're going to see some wonderful photographs. When you take these photos, I mean, do you use like everybody else with a cell phone, or do you go out with a real camera?
You know, it's
show camera with my hand.
It's varied. Well, I'll tell you. I have my fancy Nikons if I know I'm actually going to go out and work something. And but I got a very good cell phone recently, just before my trip to Cuba.
It's amazing how good they are.
I love it. I love it.
Amazing.
And since I was with the senator doing a lot of community events and everything, which presented a whole opportunity for photos beyond taking shots of him, a lot of cell phone stuff too, which is more convenient.
And you took them and visualized them as, because these are all black and white. You took them and visualized them as black and white?
No.
Or you looked at them and said, hey, let's make them black?
No, I was always shooting color. I still shoot color. And then I convert later. What happened was, and I think I told you the last time I was on with some of my other work, a friend did a Facebook challenge. They said, for 1 week every day, shoot a black and white photo without people in it. And I started doing it. I think
that was like one of those Facebook things.
Yeah,
right?
It was on a Facebook
it was
challenge.
Like a challenge.
Yeah. And I said, hey, you know, this is interesting. I finally understood or realized the impact of black and white. And I went back to a lot of my color photos.
And then you said,
I
hey,
said,
look
how
at
would this look in black? Would this work better in black and white? And I started seeing, wow.
So, you know what?
So now I shoot with color, and I say, can I translate it?
I'm going to make an attempt at that. Look at some of the photos that I like and see what it looks like. All right, so where were these were taken in Cuba?
No. Cuba's the next show.
Oh, the next show, the next time.
We're doing this. This is all Bronx.
Assuming we will invite you back. Okay.
This is all Bronx today.
All right.
Okay.
So let's let it rip.
And we'll do another show for the other city stuff too.
Bob Kappstatter, Cappy, is taking photos.
My photos are not available for sale, but if you make me a decent offer,
if you make them any offer, what do we get?
I'll take what I can get.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Here
what
we
are
go.
we looking at?
So, all right. This was.
You can see him right up here.
Oh, okay, great. This was a street festival, the Morrison Avenue Festival during the summer, and which are great
This
places
past
to shoot.
summer?
Yeah, this past summer. Street fairs and festivals are great for shooting. This was a couple who was dancing, and I just, going over the photos after they were shot, I said, I love the fluid movement of this, how catching the fluid movement of this dance.
And you know what I love, which
it's just poetic to me.
which helps identify it,
And the intensity of it.
what I love, which helps identify it, is the Puerto Rican flag in the
Well,
to
there
the
you
right,
go, too.
and that helps define what it
Right.
is and who they are, without words.
This
you
could
know?
also work in color, but
No,
I
that's
like
fine.
the black and white. All right,
All
next.
right, we're ready for the next photo.
Yeah. I think we're going backwards here, but let's keep going anyway. All
Oh,
right.
you had a different order.
I think I had, you know what? We'll play luck of the draw.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever it is.
All right. So this is one of the, every 3 or 4 years, all the old veterans from the Fort Apache,
right.
the Bronx's burning years, the 41st Precinct, do their reunion. And I'm privileged to have many of them as friends. This is Ted.
And that was partially because you covered that.
Oh, I covered that stuff too, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm giving
for
away
the
age
Daily
here,
News.
but what
No,
the hell.
it's
The
too
Bronx's
late for
burning
that.
years were, this is Ted I can't pronounce
Okay, Ted.
Ted, who had this great tattoo, so he was a natural
Wow.
for a pose and a shot.
Tremendous. By the way, before we go to the next photo, have you seen Decade of Fire? About the 70s?
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
You should see
I
the
watched
whole.
the trailer.
You and of course everybody
Yeah.
in the Bronx should see the whole
Yeah.
movie.
Boy, did that bring back memories. Wow.
Especially because you
Yeah.
were there and you covered it. All right, what do we got next?
All right, next, moving on.
Let her rip.
Click.
I wish I had one of those.
Okay.
Oh wow, look at this.
All right.
Love in the Bronx.
Yeah, you know, this was at a press conference for Junior Guzman, after the 16-year-old that was killed by the Trinitario gang, and I saw this couple standing on the edge of the crowd, and I think I shot about 10 or 12 shots, just to see, you know, get something good. It just the framing, the pose.
Well,
the way
you know,
his-
for me, it's the emotion of what what was happening, and there's resignation. There's, you know, wow.
Yeah, contemplation,
Cappy,
whatever.
great,
I just
beautiful.
love the composition of that
certain,
photo,
but
too.
again, once you say that that's what it is, these are great. When are we going to have a gallery showing? That'll be great.
All right,
All
there
right,
we
next.
go. Outside the Marriage License Bureau.
I was going to say that looks like across the street, the 161st
yeah,
Street, right?
there you go.
And so wait, they just got married?
They were either just or got, or well, I think it looks like, yeah, they did. He's holding the certificate there.
Wow.
I said,
Wouldn't mind seeing a little more joy. Come on, you're getting married.
well, yeah, they're posing. She's on her cell phone.
And the guy,
Mom is, her
and
mom
I like
is
the guy looking
smiling.
at you. It's just
Yeah, it's just a nice shot.
great. Yeah.
Bronx people.
The Bronx, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't we love them?
Okay.
All right, keep going. Church.
Church. This is a South Bronx church. When you're poor, all you really got is faith, I guess. And this was Senator Sepulveda is making the rounds of churches in his district. He's trying to hit all 3 of them.
And it's interesting, the woman in front has the microphone.
Yeah, she's
The women
singing away,
behind
and
him,
women they're in they're having their faith and their ecstasy of their faith.
And the woman in the back with the print shirt, her head, you know, it's a little unnatural.
Just catching it, and
Yeah,
boom, there it was.
yeah.
There was that picture to take.
You know, the seats actually look like the old subway seats when they used to have the straw seats on the D train.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Now I'm showing my age. Go ahead.
All right, moving on.
All right, let's see what's next. Oh, how
I
nice.
love this one. This was at a Three Kings festival
Right.
at a local church, and
Hello, Governor.
well, here's this angel on a cell phone.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't. I just had to grab that shot. That was a grab shot.
A young boy, I guess. it is?
Yes.
And
young
how old
boy.
do you figure?
Oh,
8,
who knows?
10 years old.
But here's this angel on a cell phone. It's just like
There you go. And you know what? You know what else communicates angel is the pigeon toes.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah. All right, keep going. I'm sure there's more. You brought us like
I gave you. Listen, we'll go by the clock. When we run out of time, we're out of time.
That one.
All right. I have my cell phone all the time. If I see something, I take something.
There you go.
Maybe a couple of times a week. This is up at
this was taken down at the Wild West. This was all at the OK Corral.
No, actually,
right?
this was
Griffith.
This was at Bronx Homicide Lieutenant Sean O'Toole's annual St. Patrick's Day luncheon up at Bronx Homicide, which I am grateful to be invited every year. And I just love this guy slapped this on his gun.
Wow. The Shamrock.
Shamrock.
Yeah, but it's great. It really looks like an old Western. I mean, if it wasn't Paladin or one of those guys. All right, next. I think we're going to squeeze in 2 more real quick.
Okay,
oh
all right. This was the annual mass and anniversary of the Happy Land arson fire. 1990, 87 people killed, including 2 of her children. And she was sitting with her daughter or someone, and she was just,
You know what is wonderful?
Caught with emotion, and
you know what's wonderful about
black
the photo?
and the hair, and
the hair and the fur from the jacket tend to blend together.
The composition again.
Oh, it's great.
So,
isn't that great? All right, I think we have time for one more. One more.
Okay, this was at just some annual.
I shudder to think.
So
Jesus, Booger, Lonnie, Manson, Sip.
I saw this T-shirt, and this is so Bronx. The old crew, the old gang.
This was at a festival of some sort.
Some street, over at the Bruckner Mall. But and I forgot to ask the guy what his name was.
Well, his name is either Jesus, Booger,
Lonnie, or Manson, or Sip.
Your name is Bob Kappstatter. It's always a pleasure.
Sir.
And we will have you back. We'll get to the rest of them.
Okay.
Or something else.
Thank
you.
Bob
Kappstatter. We'll take a break, and a Rolling Stone reporter who reported on Desus and Miru. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And we'll be right back.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family?
This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort...
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry.
Go along, son!
It's always worth it.
Whoa! Master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do It Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
All right, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. Love hanging out with Bob Kappstatter, and we'll get him back here at some point, and we'll show some more of those fantastic photos of the Bronx. But right now, we're going to talk to a Bronx writer who writes for Rolling Stone magazine, and he's been with us on Bronx Talk, but never on the Bronx Buzz. Let's say hello to Simon Vozick-Levinson.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Gary.
Simon, the last time we were together, you were on Bronx Talk, and I think it was because you had interviewed Paul McCartney, and we were like, oh my goodness, here's a Bronx guy who is with Paul McCartney. Do you love what you do? Do you feel, like, wow, like, do you ever pinch yourself and say, I'm interviewing Paul McCartney, I'm interviewing Desus and Mero, I mean, do you ever pinch yourself, or are you just kind of okay with it now?
Sure, no, it's the greatest job in the world. I love it, and the best part of it is that you get to interview, all these incredibly cool people from all walks of entertainment.
I would think, and maybe I'm wrong because you may or may not recall that I was in the music business previous to my television career, that getting to go to concerts and being involved and being exposed to live music and getting all the CDs or seeing what comes out first, to me that was a real joy. I'm assuming you share in that joy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's something that I really enjoy in the job. Keeping up on new music, having an excuse to go out to concerts, listen to new records. It never gets old. It's really fun. I'm
sure it is. All right, let's talk about Desus and Mero. I hope I pronounced them right. This is probably the hottest comedy duo in America right now, and they are Bronx guys. Now, I've got the article in front of me. Their real names are kind of like regular Bronx names, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's Desus' real name is Daniel Baker. Mero's name is Joel Martinez. They're really just, they're two guys from the Bronx. They're hilarious, and they have a really unique style of humor that I think really resonates with me, certainly as a Bronx native, and I think probably with a lot of other people from the Bronx.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And for me, I'm always interested in Bronx culture and who we are and identifying who we are and all those kinds of things. I like the idea that they're out there now, and I think it says something about the Bronx that their brand of humor is like, communicating and kind of showing off who we are to the rest of the world. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think that's totally right. I mean, you can hear, when you hear these guys do their comedy routines, there's a lightness on their feet, a wittiness, a gracefulness in their humor that's also kind of tough and also doesn't pull its punches. That to me is just absolutely from the Bronx, and I think that's a real important part of their formula.
You met them downtown somewhere for lunch?
Yeah, that's right. I had lunch with them downtown near the Highline Park on the west side downtown.
And tell me something of what that was like. What was that like to sit with them and give me something that may not be in the article. By the way, it's in the current issue of Rolling Stone magazine, Out to Lunch with Desus and Mero.
Yeah, well, as a writer, you dream of getting to interview people like this because sitting with these guys over lunch, it's just one joke after another, one punchline after another. They sort of do all the work for you. They're so funny that it's just, so much material and so many amazing quotes that I just had to try to fit into the story.
And try to, it's very hard to capture because the humor is kind of, it's almost like you got to be there to hear the timing and hear the rhythm of it, and get the attitude, which is really a lot of what really communicates with these guys.
Right. Yeah, I did my best to capture sort of the tone and the timing, but it's true. I mean, when they're going, these guys just kind of riff off of each other. It's nonstop, and you have to kind of try to keep up with the jokes one after another.
I really appreciated the quote from Tracy Morgan. Of course, he also a Bronx guy. He went to DeWitt Clinton High School, a place that you are, of course, well familiar with. And other comedians seem to say, you know what, they're cracking me up, and that's high praise.
Yeah, I think it was great talking to Tracy Morgan, and I think other comedians appreciate that these guys are representing kind of a voice and a style that you don't hear that much in mainstream comedy. I think that's something that makes them unique, and that's something that's really helped them break through.
My sense on, and this is also a general vision of media, and you've been around a little bit, and you have seen, almost like moving from one thing to the next. This is almost like a new generation of entertainment And I think much like the Bronx, listen, we broke doo-wop and, we broke some of the original Latin and rhythm and blues and all that, and hip-hop obviously came from the borough. To me, it's not a surprise to me that kind of a new era of comedy, I mean, this is not, the old Bill Cosby records we used to get. This new era of comedy is being, foreshadowed or explained to the world by the Bronx.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. I mean, these guys are amazing. They're the future of comedy, and this comes as no surprise to you or to your viewers. But that rich cultural tapestry of the Bronx, I think, is a huge part of them and what's making them successful.
And in terms of the media that they're on now, they're on Showtime, right? That's where they are. There's a sense, and you don't get this with traditional comedians, that they are able to traverse all the different levels and places in media. In other words, it doesn't matter if they're on YouTube for something, or if they post some stuff on Instagram, or if they get the big show on Showtime or whatever. They seem to be able to fit into whatever genre. That's not the kind of thing we see all the time.
Yeah, well, so Jesus and Mero started out online. They actually had their start just on social media. They were just sort of naturally funny there, and that was what sort of gave them their entry into the entertainment industry. They've been able to really translate it really effortlessly to every platform they've been presented with, whether it was on YouTube, podcasts, now on Showtime. The audiences just kind of keep getting bigger and bigger, and they're keeping up with it. It's amazing.
What do you think the future is? I mean, because Showtime is, it's a legitimate network. It's a wonderful network. By the way, one of the executives up there in programming is also from the Bronx, so I know very well. So we're everywhere. But what do you think? Do you see this kind of thing moving to traditional television? Like, instead of former Saturday Night Live guys getting a show on, NBC or CBS, how do you see it?
Yeah, well, I think for Jesus and Mero specifically, I think the sky's the limit. I wouldn't be surprised to see them hosting the Oscars in a few years. I wouldn't be surprised to see them moving to a bigger network, or getting parts in movies, because they're just so naturally charismatic. And I think others are going to follow suit too. I think they're really carving out a new pathway. This is the future of comedy for sure. And
what I really appreciate is you saying that, because as I recounted just what we've done in music, it wouldn't surprise me that the Bronx, gave birth to this kind of thing. Before we let you go, Simon, I want to just ask about the stuff that you get to cover. We talked in the beginning about, how exciting it is because you get to go out and do all kinds of things. You did interview Paul McCartney and, et cetera, et cetera. How does it work? Do you come in one day and they say, okay, everybody sits around the table and you'll do this, this, and this? Or do you plan ahead, or do you get to say, hey, I'd like to do the Bronx story? Or, I'm just curious of how it works for you, and because you really do a range of things. It's not like you only do, you're like the comedy expert. I mean, you're a music editor and everything else. Talk to me a little bit about the spectrum of what your work is like.
Thanks, Gary. I cover as much of everything as I can. Luckily, I've gotten to a point in my career where I am able to kind of pick the things that I want to write about, the things that personally interest me. So I spend most of my time covering music, whether it's pop or hip hop or rock music or whatever. But when there's something like this, Jesus and Mero are such irresistible subjects. You want to write about them. You want to interview them. So I was able to do that. Yeah.
Just take a step back and give me a vision of Rolling Stone magazine. We were talking about it earlier. I've read that magazine since probably it first came out. In what was it, 1971? Is that when it started?
It was actually, it was 1968, yeah.
Traditional rock and roll and the traditional, classic rock and all the other things, whether it be Jimi Hendrix, the Doors, and, the Rolling Stones and all the groups that they covered, that Rolling Stone covered all the years, that has morphed. And if you want to stay current and if you want to, keep kind of that edge, the magazine has had to adapt to new cultures. Talk to me a little bit about that. Is that a challenge for traditional people to sit back and say, well, we got to kind of make way not only for new comedy teams but for whole new waves of music, and no pun intended on the word new wave.
It is a challenge, but I think it's really an exciting challenge. It's something that my colleagues and I spend a lot of time doing, trying to keep up with culture, trying to see where culture is going and how Rolling Stone and its identity fit into that. And that's something that I find really exciting.
How do you define that identity? I mean, that identity is a kind of a fascinating thing because it's changed. I mean, as I said, when I was growing up or when I was reading Rolling Stone to begin with, it was traditional, what we would now call classic rock bands, and certainly you cover them, but that's not part of it. How do you define the genre, so to speak, that Rolling Stone thinks is important?
Right. Well, so originally Rolling Stone was a magazine that covered rock and roll and the culture around it. Now, as the culture has shifted, I think it's more about looking for that kind of the spirit of rock and roll, the spirit of what's rebellion, what's new, what's exciting, in whatever form that takes. And so, that can be a rapper, it could be a pop singer, or it could be a rock and roll band. You never know.
Are you excited? This will be the last question because we're going to have to run out. But are you excited or really thrilled when, maybe it's a rhetorical question, when you hear a new band and you're like, wait a minute, this is something we haven't heard before and it's really, really good? That must be the thing that really motivates you to say, hey, we're gonna really do something about something new.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's one of the thrills of the job. And I listen to a ton of new music. I see a lot of new artists. Some of them are better than others, but when you find one who really resonates and one who really seems like they're going somewhere, that's always a lot of fun.
Must be the thing. Listen, Simon Vozick-Levinson, I guess that brings us all the way around in a circle to Desus and Mero, because here they are, brand new, something different. And nothing thrilled me more than knowing it was a Bronx friend covering a Bronx comedy duo. Thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch. You never know what we can cook up together. It's always great to have you.
All right, thanks so much, Gary. Take care.
Great, we'll see you around town. Oh, there you go, Simon Vozick-Levinson. We talk a lot about Bronx journalists and covering all different aspects of Bronx media. And here's a Bronx guy working at Rolling Stone magazine covering Bronx comedy. So there you go. That's it. We will see you on Bronx Talk. Monday night, we're going to be talking about Riverdale Press bombing. On the 18th, we're going to talk about Freedom Land. And then on the 25th, it'll be the borough president. Goodbye.
Are we there yet?
Yep. We're here.
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.